If you went to a restaurant and they handed you a used, dirty fork, would you stick it in your mouth? I'd say that's pretty gross. How about if you're performing at a venue and they hand you a used, dirty microphone? A microphone that has been at somebody else's lips all night long while they're breathing into it, spitting into it, and now you're going to take that same microphone and put it up against your mouth. Isn't that kind of gross too? Now, I can assure you that at my venue, we don't put our microphones through the commercial dishwasher. The Shure SM58 is a pretty rugged microphone, but it's not dishwasher safe. And so, what can you do? I know there's a big concern these days about being hygienic and preventing the spread of disease and taking prudent steps to stay healthy. And I think that makes a lot of sense. And so what can we do to make sure that we don't possibly pick up diseases from using shared microphones? It's kind of tough to clean a microphone because microphones are sensitive to water, so we don't want to get the microphone terribly wet, and that applies doubly for condenser-style microphones. But there's some things that we can do to help prevent the spread of disease. Now, I've done live sound for a long time, and I can't cite a known example where somebody has gotten seriously ill from using a shared microphone. And obviously, I certainly would hate to see that happen at my venue. But then again, how do you know? A performer could be using the microphone on one evening, the next day not feeling so good, and they could have picked up that disease from anything and anywhere, but they could have picked it up from the microphone. It's pretty hard to clean mics and get them sterile. Now, obviously, there's some simple things you could do, such as you could use some alcohol wipes, and you could wipe off the microphone before using it, and also make sure to get the handle, too, because that was handled by somebody else, and so you want to make sure you get the whole thing wiped off with an alcohol wipe so that it hopefully cleans off the surface pretty well. And I'm sure that would help, but I don't think it's super effective because there's no way that with an alcohol wipe you can get down inside of all the little crevices in the grill or into the foam that's inside of the microphone pop filter here and get that really cleaned out. Another thing you could do is you could get yourself an inexpensive foam mic cover. These are just a few dollars, and so when you come into the venue you could pull out your own microphone foam cover and slip that on top of the grill of the venue microphone to make sure that your lips aren't directly touching the mic. And that should offer you some protection as well. But really, isn't this a good reason to bring your own microphone? You can get yourself a decent vocal mic for $100, maybe $150. And if you're a performing professional musician, personally, I don't think that's a big price to pay for a critical piece of equipment for you. And if you get your own microphone, you can choose the microphone that really works best for your voice rather than just being a victim of whatever the venue chooses to provide. Now, there is one good reason I can think of to use the venue's house microphones, and that is that chances are the sound technician at the venue has spent quite a bit of time working with those microphones, and he has his sound system dialed up so that the microphones that they are using are set up so that the system is least likely to feed back. He spent quite a bit of time with those mics and tweaking the adjustments on his sound system so that the maximum gain before feedback is achievable on stage. Now, of course, if you know what kind of microphone the venue is using and you choose that same microphone, well, that should be a non-issue then. And at my venue, we use Shure SM58s. These are super popular, and these are probably what you are most likely to find when you're out at bar, restaurant venues doing performances. So if you're going to purchase your own microphone and you're good with the Shure SM58 and how well it works for you, that might be a really good choice, because then chances are when you walk into a venue with a Shure SM58, it's probably going to be set up for that microphone and no adjustments will be necessary, or only minor adjustments would be necessary. If you come in with something else, the sound technician is going to have to adjust the system to compensate for the microphone that you bring. And chances are he probably won't have the time and resources to do as careful of adjustments as he has for his own house microphones. I would also add that if you choose a condenser style microphone, they tend to be a little bit more touchy on feedback than a dynamic. And so I would lean towards choosing a dynamic microphone rather than a condenser, unless you feel it's really compelling that you have a condenser mic for most live sound situations. So just a quick thought for you folks. I hope we all stay healthy and happy. And if I was a vocalist, I'd bring my own mic, because that way you know who's been using it. And chances are there probably isn't a huge threat of disease spread through microphones, because if you're on top of this microphone, there's probably only been one other person who's used it prior to you in the recent history, unless it's a karaoke situation or something. And so your chance of getting a disease from one other person, well, it's probably not as great as the chance that you'd pick up something by grabbing the doorknob as you come into the venue where lots and lots of people have recently touched. But nevertheless, to me, it's just a little bit gross putting something up into your mouth that somebody else has just done that with. And there's no really good way to sterilize the microphone. Now, things you could do if it was your own mic and you wanted to clean it up is you can unscrew the pop filter ball off of the microphone like so. And you can replace these for about $15 on a Shure 58. And inside of here, you'll find the foam, which you could pull out and wash thoroughly. And then the metal grill part, you could also wash thoroughly by scrubbing it with a toothbrush and making sure it's all nice and clean. Personally, I often will use an ultrasonic cleaner, which I think works really well. I suppose you could also put the microphone into an enclosure with an ozone generator, and ozone is a powerful disinfectant, and so a little time in a bath of ozone would probably be effective as well. But I can assure you that the venues that I've worked at, and probably most of them out there, do not do thorough cleaning of their microphones from one performance to another. And if the last performance prior to yours was several days ago, for example, it's Friday night and the last performance that was on stage was the prior Saturday, well, that's been about 4 or 5 days since anybody's touched that mic, and most infectious diseases don't survive more than a few days on a surface. So you're probably pretty safe. But on the other hand, if it's Saturday night and there was a performance that used that microphone the night prior, well, there's a possibility that there may be some bacteria or viruses on the microphone that you could possibly pick up from the prior performer. So, a couple good reasons why I think that if you're a professional vocalist, you should have your own mic. Anyway, my name is Barry. I'm a sound engineer in the Minneapolis and St. Paul, Twin Cities area. I hope you liked the video. And I would appreciate if you would help the YouTube stats of this channel by clicking the subscribe button if you haven't already. Click the bell icon so that YouTube will send you an email, notify you of future upcoming content. Thanks for stopping by, and thanks for checking out another episode of Sound Advice.